I have been incredibly critical of Call of Duty Vanguard, as I think many other people have been as well. There's a litany of issues. I'll get into some of them today. But why am I playing Vanguard now? Well, they are offering a free 2-week trial period for everybody to check it out, whether you're on PC or on console, in an attempt to get you to buy it. And of course, it matches a discounted price. This is a very common strategy with Call of Duty games where they will wait maybe 2 or 3 months and then they'll try to release the game at a discount to try to get some, additional people buying in. I'm still not going to get it, but I did want to take the time today to talk about the new Arms Race mode, which I actually really enjoyed. And I'd have to say, if there was any reason for me to get into Call of Duty Vanguard, it would probably be for this mode. It takes a little bit of everything we have seen in other Call of Duty games and kind of mashes them all together into a competitive yet sort of open world experience. And I have to give them credit because it's really a lot of fun. And I find myself playing it quite a bit. So I recorded some gameplay footage here. You guys could check it out. Now, bear in mind a couple things. Number one, I haven't played Call of Duty in a very long time. I've obviously got kind of the basics down. I know how to aim and shoot and everything, but this game plays very differently than my daily driver of Halo Infinite. So you may see some shots that you're like, oh, this guy's trash. And you'd probably be right. Additionally, I am still not entirely familiar with the maps. I know it's just a single map, but even this particular one I struggle with sometimes in figuring out where to go. But excuses aside, this is a cool mode. Basically, how it starts is you are dropped into the world, and I believe this must have been a joined in progress game because I noticed immediately we were losing points, but okay. And people already capturing points while I was still on the plane. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. I've got to say, just as an aside, it seems like it's harder in Call of Duty Vanguard to get a fresh game. It seems a lot of times, even in the competitive multiplayer space, I'm never starting from scratch. I don't know if that is I don't know how that kind of fares with the Call of Duty experience or kind of what people are experiencing in Vanguard as a whole. I don't really remember that being a problem in Cold War. Definitely not a problem in Modern Warfare. As a matter of fact, it seemed like if you did join a game in progress, or we call it a JIP, join in progress, it seems to me that you would almost be rewarded with a fresh game the next go-round. But that aside, basically, there's a bunch of checkpoints on this map. You collect them just in traditional King of the Hill style. So you walk over it. You have to be the only person on your team to be standing on the point. I'm sorry, the only person. Yeah, you have to kill the other team members. If you have more people on your team, then obviously you capture it faster. That would be a very funny mode. Sorry, you can't capture this point because your teammate's capturing it. Oh, okay. So you have to kind of hold off the defenders. Now, the bases themselves are very generic, unfortunately. I didn't really get a big distinction of look and feel between the bases. I think that's kind of a problem I have with this whole package as a whole, just in Vanguard. I feel like there's a lot of kind of reused assets and a lot of kind of half-assed thought processes. But you're going to go in these bases and you're going to stand in them. You eventually capture them. They're your base. Okay. When you own a base, you have a couple of privileges with that base. You can spawn from the base, which is great. You can use the base as a buy station to buy your kill streaks. You can buy your loadouts here. You can buy armor. You can buy just different vehicles. Anything you can buy in the game. This is where it's going to take place. One of the nice things is once you have earned up enough money for your loadout, you keep that with you through death. So you're not penalized in that sense. Thankfully, everything else, of course, is a one-time use. You don't get to call in a rocket strike infinitely with one purchase. So that's how you kind of get your foot in the door. You take over a base, you gather some money. You gather money by doing the objective of gathering the base, killing opponents, whatever. Eventually, you can buy your loadouts. Okay, now you're in the game with your particular kit. So what are you doing? Well, you're going to be going around and trying to kill the enemy and take their base. The game ends under one particular circumstance, and that's where one team holds all the bases. So you can win just by taking over an enemy base. Simple enough. And if you take over all the enemy bases, they don't have anywhere to spawn. If you can withhold the remaining bases in the game for 30 seconds, you win. Game over. But you'll notice that there's a lot of bases that are missing off the top, like base C is in Charlie. And you'll notice that as I'm driving around this motorcycle, you're seeing a lot of green smoke and haze and fog of war and stuff. Well, that's because those bases have been taken off the map. They have been destroyed by the infamous Nebula Bomb. So in an effort to kind of keep the game moving and prevent too much turtling, the game puts in these Nebula Bombs. And these Nebula Bombs, you find them, they drop in the world. They're very clearly marked. They drop into the world. And if you can capture a Nebula Bomb by going over and basically channeling it and taking it back to your owned base, doesn't matter which one, as long as you own a base, you can go back there and buy it or cash it in, you can destroy any of the enemy controlled bases and they're out of play. That's why you're noticing the base count. When we started this video, we had a couple more letters to the alphabet. Now we're just down to 4. And that is another way to win. Obviously, just snuff the enemy out by destroying all of their bases. What this does is a very kind of clever way of forcing engagements, which is great because obviously you can't spawn at bases that are gone. If you go inside that toxic cloud, you ultimately die. So there's these natural kind of blocks in the world that start to funnel the action together, particularly because of how the roads and the terrain is laid out. There are very distinct routes to get between bases, so it begins to funnel in kind of how the engagements occur, and it's a good way to keep the gameplay engaging. No two games will ever be the same because different bases will be attacked and you'll be defending different points, that sort of thing. So turtling is not guaranteed victory, and in fact, gathering and holding on to these Nebula Bombs and blowing up enemy structures is a really cool way of doing things. So I like that. I think that's a fun mechanic. And in and of that itself, it works really well. And I like I said, I've been playing this game, the last, I guess 2 days now, right? I feel like I've put in probably at least 10 matches, and I've had a blast with it. And that would be probably the only reason I would potentially consider buying Vanguard is to continue playing this mode because it's just so much fun. And you're leveling up your thing, and you're getting vehicles and all that sort of stuff. But the more you play it, unfortunately, all of those nonsensical things that made me not buy Vanguard in the first place really become apparent. The color palette remains very dull and drab. Even the smoke and these kind of rings of stay out of these areas, they don't look well. Everything just has a dull, flat, not good look to it, with the exception of the incredibly bright, vibrant red and blue icons of who holds the map. Everything else just looks dull and muted. Even your teammates' names in the bottom left corner of your screen with your squad just looks lame. Your character looks lame. It's just not a pretty game. And I'm running this on a 2080 Ti. Everything maxed out entirely. So this is the best performance you can get. I'm even playing a little bit on ultra wide. I did cut the image off just a little bit, but that's why you're seeing the watermark stuff on the top and bottom there, because I wanted to get the full experience, but it still just kind of has a bleh kind of look to it, which is very regrettable. Additionally, the problem that Vanguard had at launch, and not that I would expect Arms Race to fix it by any stretch of the imagination, but it still has a massive identity crisis in terms of using old guns with some new attachments, with new scopes, and I'm not really sure what the time period is here. I guess the gun I'm supposed to be using is a World War II, heavy machine gun. Yet I have this 2.5x optical zoom crosshair with, pretty great recoil. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. One of the other things that frustrates me is just in general, I feel like a lot of this game is phoned in. A perfect example, and that's a reason I focused on that particular area getting blown up. When the bomb drops, you hear a plane go overhead. It starts picking up big sound effects. The music starts ramping up significantly. It's like, okay, we're getting ready to have a major event occur here. And that's really exciting. I'm like, oh, this is cool. We're going to get something cool happening. Unfortunately, what happens is you don't ever see a plane fly overhead. When the bomb drops on the map, it doesn't really look that great, and there's no real environmental destruction. It just instantly coats the area in this yellow cylinder that's like do not cross line. You don't get any rewarding explosion or kind of feel of what's happening. And these airstrikes and these over-the-top kind of events, unfortunately, occur everywhere. I'm constantly hearing enemies calling in recon and flybys and everything. And one of the coolest things about Cold War, I remember, was calling in the air superiority, which would basically clear out any single air vehicle, just clear the skies. UAVs, bombers, helicopters, whatever. And you would see and hear jets fly and boom overhead, break the sound barrier. You could look up, you could see them flying across the screen, you could see the trails go overhead. It was a very heroic moment. Reminds me of, I think it was Modern Warfare 2 that had that scene in it, where you recapture maybe it was Modern Warfare 3, because that took place a lot as the invasion was occurring near America. But there's a really cool scene where you're running up to the White House and you're cracking flares and waving them, and you call off the airstrike. It's a really epic moment in the single-player campaign that you experience all the time in Cold War, but not here. So it's just these little attention to detail, these little polished kind of fun moments that really feel like they could make the game a little bit better are sorely missing. You see it as well in the animations. The driving, the vehicle driving just doesn't feel right. You saw me a little bit. I think I get on a bike a little bit later. It just feels wobbly. It doesn't feel like you're driving a powerful piece of equipment. It's very easy to kind of fishtail and flop all around. It doesn't feel like an organic driving experience, which is frustrating. A lot of the cool customization that you would expect for vehicles as well doesn't really seem to be there. And it just seems like a lot of effort was put in things that you don't really get rewarded for. And I think that's what frustrates me the most. I mean, even the end game screen where it forces you to vote on the MVP of the game. And I say forces you because it gives you experience. You're going to be stupid not to take the free experience, no matter how small it is. Of course, you're going to take the XP just to randomly select one of 3 people for a heroic deed. Even in that mode, the animations that the characters use at the end, most of them are the same. They don't even look right sometimes. Like, I saw one the other day. I don't understand it. It looked to me like somebody was stabbing somebody with a sledgehammer. Like, he had a sledgehammer in his hand, but he did almost like a Triple H move, but it was more like an impalement. And it just kind of resonates poorly, unfortunately. It's something that I just, I look at and I say, oh, well, this just isn't a good look for this game. So there's a lot of stuff in this game that just kind of is ho-hum and lackluster and honestly depressing. And I think that's kind of where I want to leave this video is, ARMS, this mode is fun. It's taking the best it could be. It's something that is engaging. It's interesting. If you're a fan of these kind of open world experiences and you don't necessarily want to play Warzone because you want to kind of have a wrapper of an objective-based game around it, I think this is phenomenal for that. And I think you'll have a lot of fun playing that. But I think when you start to peel back the onion and you kind of start looking at some of the game modes, or at least some of the graphics and some of the rewards and kind of the overall ambience of the game, it does start to fall apart. So if you are interested, though, it's free for the next 2 weeks. I really encourage you to check it out. Try it out, play it with your friends, tell me what you think. It is free to play right now, so take advantage of that, and it's on sale. So if this wins you over, hey, Call of Duty is a phenomenal game. I have invested so much time with it over the years. This one I particularly sat out, and I will continue to do so, unfortunately, but can't wait for Modern Warfare 2 later this year. I think that's going to be the one that's going to pull me back into the experience. But that wraps up today's thoughts on the new game mode. I wanted to get my thoughts out there because it is something everybody's talking about. And I think you should check it out and try it for yourself. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.